everybody, my name is Joanna and I love overanalyzing children's media. I think the media that we consume as kids really plays a vital part in internalizing what we consider good values, even if we don't realize it. And I also love a good musical Disney Channel original movie. Lemonade Mouth and Teen Beach Movie are some of my favorite movies of all time. This channel literally only began because of High School Musical. There's one musical movie series on the Disney Channel that has always fascinated me the most, and it is Zombies. The first Zombies movie came out when I was 12 to 13. The last year I actually watched the Disney Channel consistently, to be exact. And I remember at the time I liked it. I liked the bright colors, I liked the songs, I liked the jokes. But there was always something about its messaging that I found engaging, not in a good way. And I always thought they were trying to do something good, but not in a way that was very efficient. In 2022, when I was about to finish high school, the third and what we assumed was the last Zombies movie came out. The characters were graduating too, and I remember at this point I had a little bit more critical thinking to realize that there were some stuff that these movies were saying that I don't particularly agree with and think they should be teaching children. Just to be clear, I'm going to be critical of these movies, but I still like them. I refuse to talk about things that I don't find interesting or engaging. I would not talk about these movies if I hated them and if I didn't have any sort of enjoyment out of watching them. And I feel like it's pretty interesting to discuss these things these movies are talking about. And yeah, I think this should be fun, so let's go. Let's talk about zombies. Hello, everybody. So my name is Joanna, but I also like to be positive sometimes. So the first Zombies movie begins with a cute little animated intro. It's like comic book style. I think it's cute. I like this intro. Telling us the backstory of the town where the story is set, Seabrook. So Seabrook was a normal, perfect town up until there was an accident at the power plant where someone spilled some sort of green soda, my bad is on Guarana, and it caused part of the population to turn into zombies. Yeah, brain-eating zombies. And these zombies were made to live in their own part of the town, the zombie town, so there was a little bit of segregation going on. As I said, I really like this intro. I think it's cute. It tells us what we need to know, the exposition we need to know, and it serves as a tone setter for these movies. They are very cartoonish. We then get a fourth wall break from one of our main characters, Zed, who is a zombie himself. He tells us, the audience, that this all happened 50 years ago and now there's a lot of progress been made and the zombies don't eat brains anymore because they have a bracelet, a Z-band, that makes them not want to eat brains, so they can now live in society. And today is the first day of reintegration of the zombies, actually, because the zombie kids are being allowed to attend the local high school with the other humans. We also meet his dad and his younger sister Zoe, and we learn that Zed's dream is to enter the football team. Then we are introduced to our second main character, Edison, who is a normal human girl. She also has a fourth wall break exposition dump where she tells us that she dreams of joining the cheer team at her high school because her mom was in the cheer team and her grandmother and all her family has been on the cheer team, and this is like a huge thing at Seabrook. But although during the daytime she is Edison, a normal girl with a normal life, there's something about her that no one knows because she has a secret. Yeah, she has white hair. This is a plot point in this movie. Edison has weird white hair that is clearly a wig, a very cheap-looking wig, one might say, and she hides it because Seabrook hates everything that is different. We'll talk about this later, okay? I do like these fourth wall breaks. I think they feel very connected to the tone of this movie. However, I don't think this whole exposition was really necessary because right after it, the first song from the movie plays, My Year, and it's a song literally telling us what they just said. Before My Year happens, we also meet Edison's parents. Her dad is a cop. Yay. Right. And her mom is the mayor. Her mom, Missy, is the mayor of Seabrook. So yeah, Edison leaves to go to school and a song begins playing, My Year. And My Year is the intro number of the movie. And I really like it. It's my second favorite song in the movie. It's very musical, which I love. I always appreciate. However, as I said, as much as I really like it and I think the choreo is cool and there's like contrast between the zombies celebrating that they will be able to go to human high school with the other kids for the first time, and you see the difference between the parts of town where they live and this type of stuff, and I thought that was cool. However, I have a problem with this song because it makes those fourth wall exposition breaks that happened earlier kind of useless. They repeat the same things they said on those exposition dumps on the song. Edison tells us that she wants to join the cheer team and that she has white hair that she needs to hide. Zed tells us that he wants to join the football team and today is a big day because it's the first day they are going to high school. Like, they already said that 2 minutes ago. I think they had those scenes because they were worried the children wouldn't understand what was going on, but children aren't stupid. I think they can understand 2 lines from a song. Okay, antithesis to the thesis I just presented. I'm Brazilian and I didn't speak any English as a kid, so whenever they would play these musicals on the Disney Channel, it would be dubbed. I would watch it dubbed, but the songs would not be dubbed. So instead of dubbing, they would have only the subtitles in Portuguese. When I didn't know how to read, I couldn't figure out what they were saying, those songs. So I guess, like, if you're an international kid and you cannot figure out what is going on by the song lyrics because you cannot read, it's important that they have that exposition in the beginning. My year then introduces us to some new characters. First of all, Bucky, who is Addison's cousin. He is the captain of the cheer team. And he's like a local celebrity. Like, people really like him because cheer is such a big deal in Seabrook. Guys, I've been rewatching Once Upon a Time. I always make a video about it, so I've been rewatching it. And every time I say Seabrook, I have the urge to say Storybrooke. No, wrong piece of media. And also Eliza and Bonzo, who are Zed's friends. Eliza is played by the girl who played Izzy's younger sister in Jump In, a movie that I love. And Bonzo is played by the bully from the movie The Swap, which is another movie that I love. And also Bucky is played by a guy who was in The Next Step, which I also loved. And he is currently married to a girl who was also in The Next Step. So that's really fun. Fun fact for you guys, The Next Step fans in my audience. Anyway, while Zed is excited to be able to go to human school and excited with the prospect of, reintegration, Eliza thinks it's not enough, and she is the revolutionary. And so she raps about going against the institution and having a revolution.
Justice, we need a revolution.
And yeah, she's in the right to be upset because the zombies live in this segregated part of the town. They have the worst jobs, they don't have access to education, and they have curfews and they have to wear uniforms. So yeah, not a fun time. Bonzo is a more stereotypical zombie, but his existence makes me question things. He only speaks the zombie language instead of English, but this makes me question, how come there is a zombie language? It has been only 50 years that the zombies exist in that town. This is enough time to create a dialect, I suppose. Like North Korea and South Korea have been separated for 79 years, and that has caused their Korean language that is still the same to have a different dialect. But it's not enough time to create a whole new language. Unless this movie is implying that the creation of the zombie language was a biological fact that came right after the first humans were transformed into zombies. Which means they agree with the view of the book The Language Instinct by Steven Pinker. I wouldn't know it, I haven't actually read that book. I only read that one time when I don't know how to say her last name, I can speak Polish. This is her name. I have only read her critique of it, and I think it makes sense, and I have no interest in reading that book. Actually, I had an interest to read that book. That's why I remembered about it. I read the first 5 pages and I thought it was insufferable, and so I never read it again, especially because I don't even agree with the idea. Obviously, language is not a biological fact. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. The language is a social fact. It is socially constructed and taught. The only way this zombie language existing makes sense is if the oldest zombies decided to unite and create a language together and then teach their kids to speak it, which would mean that this language is still socially constructed but also artificial. So that's interesting, right? Okay, I'm sorry for getting sidetracked. My year also served to show us the difference between Zombie Town and suburban Seabrook. Seabrook is all in the pastels and Zombie Town has a more industrial feel. When the zombies arrive at school though, we learn that the plans of reintegrating them into society aren't really effective because the truth of the matter is that they are being sent to the basement and their teacher is a zombie who was a janitor 2 minutes ago. So yeah, this is not a good look. And then the principal of the school, who's played by the woman she was the shop attendant in that one Degrassi episode about racism with Danny and Derek, if you know what I'm talking about. And she was also in The Swap. She was the gym coach. No, she wasn't the gym coach. She was the gymnastics coach in that movie. Yeah. And she tells the zombies that they cannot do anything that involves leaving the basement. So that means Zed can attend the football tryouts because that would entail leaving the basement. Zed doesn't care and he runs away to actually go to the tryouts. And the football coach in this movie is really funny. He's one of the funniest characters.
And our football team is awful, so we are not going to win this year. And I'm probably going to lose my job.
But the team is very bad. It's terrible. And even though the team is terrible and everyone makes the cut because it's terrible, the only person who doesn't is Zed because he's a zombie. And the coach tells him, look, I cannot accept a zombie here. It's not allowed. Addison's cheer tryouts at least are going a little bit better. Bucky and his sidekicks, the ACs, their names are Tracy, Stacy, and Lacey. The blonde one, the blonde girl, she played someone, the mean girl in Zapped. I hate this movie. It's not a movie I like, but yeah, she was in Zapped with Zendaya. And so yeah, Bucky and his sidekicks, the Aces, are very strict with the tryouts, but Addison is doing well. She's been cheering her whole life. And this is all happening in the song Fired Up, which is my favorite song in the movie. I love this song. It's so, I don't know, I love a good cheer number. And the actor who plays Bucky is so talented, he's doing his own stunts. Addison befriends a girl named Bree who struggles to cheer up a crowd, and so she doesn't get in the team, but Addison asks Bucky to reconsider, and he decides to let Bree be in the team, although she's like, how do you say this in English? Reserve. She's only there like if the team needs someone else because someone is hurt. You know what I'm talking about. But understudy, this is in theater. This is not in sports, I think. But yeah, anyway, Bucky accepted. So Bree's on the team because of nepotism. Yay! Also, Bucky has one character trait that he's very zombie phobic, I think is the word they use. Everyone in Seabrook is somewhat prejudiced against the zombies. The principal was disgusted to be around them earlier, but Bucky's in a whole other level. After this all, Zed is going back to class when he bumps into a wall. Guys, I messed up the timeline. This happens before the tryouts, just so you know. And so he's like groaning because he hurt his foot. And one of the ACs sees him doing that and she's like, oh my god, a crazy zombie. So she turns on a zombie alarm. Zed decides to hide in an anti-zombie room. And, considering he could open the anti-zombie door pretty easily. Look, I work at a communications company and we take care of the socials of a fire prevention and protection plan company. And so with the knowledge of accident prevention I've attained through these methods, I will say this was not very effective. This is not a very effective security measure. I know, no one else could have thought that. So yeah, Edison ends up entering the zombie safe room too, where Zed is, and the lights are off so they can't really see each other. And they begin talking, they begin discussing about their day, and they are getting along up until the lights turn on again, and Edison sees Zed as a zombie and she punches him in the face. This is a beautiful start to a romance, some might say. Edison apologizes to Zed and says she never thought zombies could be so nice, and there you have it. There goes all of her internalized prejudice after talking to one nice, good-looking zombie one time. Later that day, Bucky is taking Bree and Addison to Zombie Town to their initiation on the cheer team. And the initiation, I think you guys call it hazing. I think this is the word for it, but it's basically throwing eggs at a zombie home. Zed comes out of his house and sees Addison there, and she feels bad about it. So they don't do this act of vandalism on this poor guy's house. Good. However, she does throw a perfectly good dozen of eggs on the trash, and that wasn't necessary. Or as Bianca from Degrassi would say,
somebody wasted an entire carton of perfectly good eggs. Did you know there's starving children in Africa, you dumb bitch?
Addison the next day apologizes to Zed and invites him to go to the pep rally later, and he accepts and he invites Eliza and Bonzo to go with him, so they are the first zombies going to this pep rally. So yeah, Bucky is still anti-zombie, so he gets firecrackers integrated into their cheer routine because zombies are afraid of fire. Is this a common zombie lore thing? I have no idea. The only things I know about zombies come from All of Us Are Dead, The Last of Us, and the music video of Zombie by Purple Kiss, which is a song I love. I hope they use it in the soundtrack of the 4th movie. Anyway, since Bonzo is a zombie who is more of a zombie than the other zombies for some reason, he gets really agitated with the fire and ends up bumping into people who are supposed to catch Addison because Addison is in the air doing some cheer thing, and she is going to fall on the ground. It's not going to be pretty, but Zed sees that, and so he accidentally messes up his Z-band while he's trying to run away to catch Addison, and he ends up kind of zombieing out. He kind of becomes a zombie for a second there, and so he's able to catch her, and he ran very fast because he was half zombie for some seconds. And his strength and quickness, swiftness, some might say, while going to catch Addison really impressed the football coach, and he decides to make a concession. See, the principal and the coach didn't realize that Zed was on full zombie mode during that moment, so they are like, we want you to join the team because our team sucks, so we want you to join the team because you're good, and if Zed joins the team, as long as he's doing good and making the team win, the zombies will be getting new rights each day. For now, they will be able to have lunch in the cafeteria with the other kids, and then they will get more rights as time passes, and Zed accepts it. Zed asks Eliza to keep on hacking his Z-band to make him be able to go full zombie during the football game so that he can win and grant them more rights, and Eliza accepts it reluctantly. I didn't explain this earlier, but Eliza is a hacker character, if you know what I mean. Since Zed is doing well in the games, he's getting pretty popular, and Bucky's jealous because, first of all, he hates zombies, but also he likes attention, and he doesn't want other people giving attention to other people other than him. So he blackmails Edison and is like, I'm going to tell everybody that you have white hair if you don't stop hanging out with Zed. Zed and Edison's relationship now has to be a secret, and this is shown in the song Someday. I don't have any thoughts about this song. It's fine. It's very poppy. It also has this very beautiful line. Guys, I wrote only on my script, and it also has this beautiful line, and I didn't write down what line I was talking about, so I'm not even entirely sure what I was talking about, but I think it's this one. Girl, you look delicious. At that moment, Edison actually tells Zed that she has white hair so she can understand the feeling of being different. And yeah, Edison, I'm sure having white hair is the same thing as being systemically oppressed. Zed takes Edison to a zombie party, and Edison makes what Eliza calls an insensitive zombie joke, so at least there was an attempt to show that Edison still is a little ignorant. I haven't really talked about this, but Eliza doesn't really like Edison because she doesn't really like humans in general. But they have a scene where Edison tells Eliza she thinks she's beautiful, and I'm sorry to make everything gay, but I think Eliza just fell in love right there. The zombies have their own musical number, a song named Bam, and I remember the song was the first one released as promotion for this movie, and I'm still a little confused by this choice because the song tells nothing about the actual plot, and it's probably my least favorite one. I just think it sounds a little bit too dubsteppy and outdated. It kind of sounds like a reject from the first Descendants movie. But I do like the number itself. The zombies are dancing in trampolines, but you cannot really tell they're trampolines, so it just looks like they can jump pretty high, which I think is cool, and there's fun neon lights. I don't know, it's a cool number. I like the costume and set design for this movie. I think it gives the town and the characters a lot of character. After the song Bam, Zed and Edison go to a different room where they sing a slow reprise of Someday, and then Zed is getting closer to Edison, and they are of course not going to kiss before the second movie in this trilogy, so he instead grabs a lock of her white hair that she has behind the wig, and I'm not going to lie, I think this scene is super cute. He tells her he thinks her hair is pretty, and it's really cute. I'm sorry. It's giving the same vibe as Troy telling Gabriella to only look at him while they sing together Breaking Free in the first High School Musical movie. But this cute moment gets interrupted by police officers who are invading the zombies parties. So yeah, Edison goes home and her parents are mad at her because they think she's going out with a boy to these places, like she's being influenced or something. After this, Zed messes up his even more to be even more human-like, and so he goes to Edison's house and meets her parents, and they think he's cool and they stop being mad at Edison because Zed is likable and they don't know that he's a zombie. Then he takes Edison to an ice cream shop, and the only available flavor is vanilla. Zed also tells Edison in this moment that he has been messing up his Z-Band to do well in the games, and she's like, you shouldn't have to hide who you are. Doing beautiful moment, but then everything goes wrong. There's this new game happening, and the ACs, Tracy, Lacey, Stacy steal Eliza's computer and hack it, and they hack Eliza's, Bonzo's, and Zed's Z-Bands, so they make them act even more zombie-like. The police gets called, and everyone is booing at the zombies up until Edison thinks, how can I make this about me? So she has this very fun white savior song called Stand. That is this power ballad that is supposed to show Edison learning to stand up for what is right. And I don't mean this as an insult, really, but I don't think this type of music fits the voice of the actress who plays Edison. I think she has a very poppy voice that does not fit this type of song. Also, Bucky sings a couple of lines about reflecting on actions, so maybe he's getting some character development, we'll see. So yeah, the song ends with Edison taking off her wig in a very Hannah Montana moment. Her parents get mad at her, and people don't have a good reaction to it, probably because her hair looks like a terrible cheap wig from the dollar store, because that's probably what it is. After this incident, it's decided that the zombies will go back to their zombie school, so Zed and Bonzo are going to Seabrook High to get their stuff from their lockers, but Eliza is not with them. Where is Eliza? Oh my god. And so Zed is cleaning up her locker, and he sees that she has plans. She has the blueprint of a plan to sabotage the Seabrook human cheerleaders during the cheer competition that is coming up. Bucky is also expelling every single cheerleader that supports the zombies in any way, so that's not fun. So yeah, Zed and Bonzo go to the cheer competition to convince Eliza not to sabotage it, because in their words, they're zombies, not monsters. And they solve racism through cheering. I'm not joking. Seabrook High does a cheer routine with the zombies after Bucky has 2 seconds of character development, and everyone claps. Also, the judges in this competition feel like a PG version of the judges from Pitch Perfect, I think is the inspiration. And also, one of them is played by the actress who plays Audra in Degrassi, Drew and Adam's mom. Fun times. They don't win the competition, but the zombies are now allowed to go back to school, and the movie ends with a block party at Zombie Town. And it's pretty implied that Zed and Madison tell each other they love each other, and they haven't even kissed on screen yet, and they are 14, so okay. But yeah, this is Zombies, and I guess you can already tell this movie has some questionable messages. It's not really subtle that the zombies are supposed to be an allegory for black people during the time of segregation, racial segregation in the US. And honestly, this allegory opens a whole can of worms that makes some ideas presented in the movie to be very harmful. First of all, and I feel like this is the biggest issue in this movie, how come didn't anyone realize that using zombies, brain-eating monsters who need bracelets, Z-bands bracelets in their arms, sending them electric currents to tell them not to be violent as an allegory for people of color was really weird? Didn't anyone think that? I know I look really crusty, I'm sorry. It's wash hair day, I haven't washed my hair yet. I just feel like I didn't really explain my point, because obviously it is weird that the zombies are supposed to be an allegory for people of color, but in case you didn't understand why I think that's weird, it's because by making them zombies, you kind of give a justification for why they were oppressed in the first place. That was, well, the zombies were violent at some point, The reason why, prejudice is bad, racism is bad, is that beyond appearance, we are all the same. We are humans. There's no inherent difference between us. And it's weird to make a whole new creature to represent people of color in the sense, because then it makes the prejudice justifiable in some way, which is not. In real life, it really isn't. Not only that, but it's weird that the zombies are supposed to be like an allegory for the people of color, these monsters who used to be violent until they had the Z-bands. Because in reality, the reality of the world is that white people have been violent towards people of color way more commonly and way more frequently in a way that is still, we still have reflections of that to this day in our society, and it still happens. Obviously, it still happens. I don't know. It's really weird. It's a weird allegory. And yeah, thank you. One thing that I find interesting is how it was realistic to show that the humans only began to accept the zombies when they became useful for them, such as Zed being good at football. This is clearly a reflection of how marginalized communities are often only granted rights or visibility when they can offer something to the dominant groups. And this is what I appreciate the most about this movie, as flawed as it is. At least there was an attempt to show racism as a systematic issue rather than reducing it to the actions of a few bad individuals. This is not really a stance the Disney Channel tends to take, or at least it didn't back in 2018. And by that I don't mean that the Disney Channel had never tackled racial issues before. The one time that it comes to my mind is that one episode of That's a Raven where Raven cannot get a job at a store because the owner of the store is racist. Which, don't get me wrong, it's important to portray in a kids show that some people are racist and that's bad. Sure, but it's still showing racism as a personal flaw and not necessarily a system. In Zombies, racism isn't just a result of one or two bad apples like Bucky. It is a deeply ingrained part of Seabrook society. The segregation of the zombies, their confinement to Zombie Town, and their limited opportunities all point to a structured form of oppression that goes beyond individual prejudice. And that's why I don't think the character of Bucky was necessary, apart from the fact that he has a few funny lines and his actor is very talented. I think his character was created to somehow represent this racism so that the children will understand it better. However, I think the kids have total thinking capacity to realize that segregating people and not giving a certain group access to education and giving them the worst jobs is bad. We don't necessarily need a bully type of character to represent that, because then it just turns into a caricature. And this leads me to the character of Edison. I think there was an attempt to do something interesting with her. Edison is a nice person, but she's very ignorant. She isn't malicious, but by being a part of the system, she is contributing to preserve the prejudice ideals of her society. The problem is, I think the writers didn't want to make her unlikable for too long, so they made her stop being against the zombies after talking to Zed one time. She then makes an insensitive joke towards the zombies later on, and Eliza calls her out on it. And so, at least there was an attempt to show that she isn't completely free of the prejudice ideals that are internalized in her life. But I still think her journey was pretty shallow. And then there's her white hair. I do understand in concept why they gave her white hair she has to hide. The writers probably thought that she would be more open to what's different if she had something that made her feel judged too. The problem though is that they tried to make it seem that her white hair is the same experience as Zed being systemically oppressed. No, it's not, Addison. That is not saying that she might not have been bullied for her white hair, but that's not the same thing as being systemically oppressed. This reminds me of those conversations about the stereotype of the dumb blonde, and I'm blonde, so I can talk about this. Yeah, there were times people called me stupid because of my hair color, but it's not nearly the same thing as the prejudice people of color face systematically. And in my opinion, the stereotype of the dumb blonde is much more rooted in misogyny than in prejudice against blondes. Addison's character also has a different issue. She is, in the narrative, essentially a white savior. Her journey of self-discovery often focuses more on herself than in the zombies, the actual marginalized group that she wants to help. And in concept, I understand the idea of the song Stand. It is supposed to show the kids in the audience that if you see discrimination happening, you shouldn't be quiet, you should stand up to it and go against it. And obviously, I don't have a problem with this message, I agree with it. The problem I have is that this moment of oppression to the zombies is narratively seen through the lens of the non-oppressed human character who makes it about herself. This is one of the many things in this movie that I understand what they were trying to do, but looking at the bigger picture and the social context, it just ends up being weird. Lastly, I also have thoughts about the character of Eliza. On one hand, I like that differently from a lot of other Disney Channel media, Zombies isn't 100% anti-revolution. Since this movie acknowledges society is flawed, Eliza, who represents revolution as a character, is seen as reasonable, and she's also constructed as a person with likes, hobbies, a personality outside of revolutionary. You might think that this is the bare minimum, but in other Disney Channel properties like Wizards of Waverly Place, the magic world is constructed as questionable and flawed and racist, but the show never acknowledges that, and then when a character shows up who wants to change things, aka Stevie, who wants to go against the rule that there's only one wizard in each family, she's immediately labeled as a villain, as an evil villain, with no sort of gray area or awareness of how she's actually right.
No wizard will ever have to give up their powers again.
Oh, I knew it! Stevie was using you for our lair so she could start a revolution. Stevie is evil!
Zombies at least sees Eliza as having the right ideas, but going on about them with the wrong means, which I don't 100% agree with, but at least it is a little less black and white. The reason why I say I don't 100% agree with it, as nice as it sounds, a lot of times, social change doesn't come from pacifism. There's a reason why violent resistance groups are usually formed in oppressive regimes. Said oppressive regimes don't tend to compromise. I'm not supporting violence here or anything, and I'm not saying the Disney Channel should support it either. I just think it's a little utopic to think Cheer's going to save the world from racism so easily. But yeah, my conclusion is that the first Zombies movie is pretty flawed, but at least they tried. Okay, let's talk about Zombies 2. Zombies 2 begins with another cute little comic book style animated intro that tells us about the new creature that exists in Seabrook now, I guess. Okay, this is a question I didn't raise earlier because I didn't think it was relevant to this video, but does the rest of the world know about the monsters in Seabrook? How do they deal with that? Is the rest of the world aware of it and only lets the monsters live in Seabrook, in that town only? Or is it a city of Chicago in the universe of Divergent situation? Anyway, back to the backstory. So back in the day, oh my god, how many times did I say back in this sentence? Okay, back in the day when the settlers arrived to Storybrooke, I said Storybrooke, it's Seabrook, you see what I mean? I'm currently rewatching Once Upon a Time, I'm sorry guys. So yeah, when the settlers arrived at Seabrook, there used to be wild beasts living there, so the settlers had a battle with these wild beasts, and they found a very powerful energy source. They got the power source and hid it from the beasts. And by Addison's narration, we're supposed to understand that the settlers killed them, so there's that. And then Seabrook grew as a rich society using that mysterious power source in the industry. A lot of years passed and there were the zombies, this part we already know. I do like the line,
"In a lot of ways, Seabrook's moved on since then. But it's hard to bury your past."
that is said in this narration. We'll discuss more about this later. Anyway, we then have Zad giving us exposition through his fourth wall breaks again. He tells us that the zombies are slowly getting more rights. Zombie Town is now open, and most of the anti-monster laws have been abolished. Also, it's a good year for business, and the former football coach now has an ice cream cart. Actually, it's a froyo card, but I have never had a froyo. I don't really know what it is besides it being defined as the worst version of ice cream according to the subtext of The Good Place. Zed says the old power plant where the accident that created the zombies happened is getting demolished in order to create a new cheer pavilion, and his dad is working in this process.
It's hard to believe there was a time when people were afraid of zombies.
First ever city, because I'm not.
And it's time for Addison to give her fourth wall breaking exposition. But before she does, I just need to tell you guys that I think Addison's makeup in this movie is awful. Her actress is really pretty, but the white hair really washes her out. And then they gave her this really ugly eyeliner and this frosty blue eyeshadow that looks like it came out straight from a 2001 magazine. And it's not like they were trying to give her a Y2K look. It just looks bad. I know I'm not the person to be judging makeup, but I think the other character's makeup is fine. And in the next movie, her makeup is fine too. And in the first movie, it was fine too. So I don't understand why it is so bad in this movie. What happened there? Makeup rant aside, Addison tells she's at cheer camp, so she and Zed aren't around each other. Bucky warns everyone at cheer camp that there are wild creatures around them, and so they need to be careful. And then he introduces the ACs, but the guy from the ACs has been replaced by another guy, so it's not, I think his name was Tracy. It's not Tracy anymore, now it's JC. But turns out JC's real name is Kevin. So there's that.
I'm Kevin.
And also, Bonzo is now on the cheer team. This was just something I noticed, and I thought that was cute. So back in Seabrook, Eliza is protesting against the demolition of the power plant because she thinks it's important for zombie culture and history. And Zed is telling her to forget about it because at least now they can attend prom, which is the Seabrook's version of prom. And I think this is a pun, and maybe it has to do with seafood, but I don't get it. What does prom mean? Where did this come from? I don't get it. At cheer camp, Bucky's still prejudiced against the zombies, yay. No character development there. And this whole context leads to the movie's first musical number, We Got This. That is a bop. I really like the song. It is basically showing what has been going on lately. With Addison at cheer camp, trying to integrate the zombies and the humans against Bucky's wishes. And Zed being excited about the positive changes in Seabrook, ignoring Eliza's concerns. Also, the ACs at cheer camp are shredding Addison's letters to Zed, so he thinks she's not talking to him. Very creative conflict. Before cheer camp ends, Bucky tells everyone that this year he will be running for school president, so he will not be able to be cheer captain, and someone else will have to step up to be cheer captain. Addison says that it has always been her dream to be cheer captain, so we'll see where this leads. While the cheer team is going back to Seabrook, Zed is trying to set up a special proposal to Addison in the road, which is very dangerous and causes an accident that throws their bus into the forest. Thankfully, no one's hurt, and I feel like this is a good moment for me to say that this movie feels a lot more cartoonish than the first movie. The third one is also pretty cartoonish. I'm not necessarily complaining. I think this cartoonish tone very much fits the movies. However, it's really weird because there's a lot of physical comedy that is very cartoon reminiscent, and by that I mean like there's stuff that happens that is following cartoon logic, you know? While Addison is looking for Zed in the forest, because yeah, when your school bus crashes into a forest, you should definitely run away from the group to look for your boyfriend by yourself. She sees wild creatures, woo, and they are werewolves. In a fantastical creature sense, I definitely prefer werewolves over zombies. So, hi guys, I'm just popping here to say that, fun fact, in Brazil, we have our own legend of the werewolf that is different from the rest of the world, and I want to tell you guys because I think it's a super cool story. So basically, the legend tells that a baby is going to be a werewolf if he is the male child of a woman who's had 7 daughters. Like, the woman has had 7 daughters, and then the 8th kid is a boy. He is a werewolf. I think it's also okay if it's like 7 boys. I'm not entirely sure. I usually heard the daughters thing. And there's a thing that the one thing that kills werewolves is like a bullet that is like, how do I explain this? That has been dipped in, so yeah, I had to look up on Google Translate. But it's like the way you kill a werewolf is with a bullet dipped in candle wax. which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, so this is the story of the Brazilian werewolf. Edison finds Zed and punches him in the face because that's the tradition now, I guess. Edison tells everyone that she saw werewolves and the word spreads, and then Edison's mom, Mayor Missy, holds a meeting to discuss what will be done in regards to that. During that meeting, we see some of the residents' perspectives on the werewolves, with Zoe, Zed's sister, telling her father that she wants to have one of them as a pet, and the father answers that they aren't friendly, and of course, Bucky hates them too because he's Bucky. Overall, the scene is showing that no one, not the humans nor the zombies, have a good impression of the werewolves. Edison talks to Zed and they conclude that the ACs have been reading her letters, but at least they're going to prom together, right? No. Wrong. Because Edison's mom decrees that because of the threat of the werewolves, now all anti-monster laws are reinstated. And of course, Edison is the only person who goes against that because she's the only woke person in this town. Now Zed and Edison cannot go together to prom, so they decide to deal with the threat of the werewolves. Unfortunately, though, seemingly all the progress made towards integrating the zombies back into society is thrown away, and they are back at stake zero. This is a pun in preparation for the fourth Zombies movie, Zombies 4: The Dawn of the Vampires. One of the werewolves finds out that the people in Seabrook are aware of their existence now, and he informs the rest of the werewolf pack about that. As I mentioned, the werewolves are a pack. There's a lot of them, but there are three main ones that are the important characters. Willa, who is the leader, and she's played by the girl who is in the terrible Pretty Little Liars reboot that I have watched because I think she's very pretty, which I know is shallow, but I also watched the original Pretty Little Liars because I thought Jay Mitchell was pretty. So what is up with pretty girls making me watch terrible shows? I don't know. Then there's Wyatt, who is Willa's brother, and I wonder if they have different fathers. And Winter, who is played by a former Musical.ly star, according to my sister. Okay, basically in the scene we find out that the werewolves are recharged by a magical necklace that draws power from a special stone called the Moonstone. They don't know where the Moonstone is, and only their Great Alpha can lead them to the Moonstone. They don't know who the Great Alpha is. However, they think the Great Alpha is Edison, who they saw in the forest because she has white hair, like the pictures in the prophecy. And of course, the werewolves need a song about them being the werewolves, so they have a musical number called Beyond the Night. And I'll be honest, I've never really liked this song. Werewolves were already introduced and talking about their motivations 3 minutes before, so instead of feeling like a presentation of these characters and what will drive them forward in the story, it just seems like it makes the plot stop for 3 minutes. But I don't really like the song for personal taste reasons, and I'm pretty sure this went viral on furry TikTok, according to my sister again. So the problem is me here. In the following day, Zed has the idea to run for school president too. That way he can make the rules and allow the zombies to go to prom. This idea comes from Eliza telling him that they should just still go to prom, like as protest. They can still attend, they can crash it. And I should say, I'm really happy that they didn't erase the revolutionary side of Eliza's character. Sometimes in this type of movies, after the revolution gets shut down, the revolutionary characters just don't have a personality, which thankfully isn't a case for Eliza. And not only that, but the fact that she is outspoken, it's a pretty big part of the plot of this movie. While Zed is telling everybody that he's going to run for president, the werewolves arrive at Seabrook High, and they pretend they want to attend the school when in reality they just want to be close to Edison in case she is the Great Alpha. Later that day, Eliza is trying to convince Zed to implement more zombie-focused programs at school if he wins the election, like zombie history, zombie as a second language, this type of thing. He brushes her off because the only thing Zed cares about is getting zombies to go to prom. And this whole school presidency thing is making things complicated because Edison will only be able to be cheer captain if Zed loses, if Bucky wins. So yeah, why do you have to go and make things so complicated, you know? But they are still supporting each other, so that's nice. Willa's then looking at the library books, and she begins talking about how the books are wrong because they say the werewolves were the one that began the battle with the settlers. And not only did the settlers actually begin the battle, they also stole the Moonstone from the werewolves. Interesting point. Willa also tells Zed later that the necklaces are responsible for keeping the werewolves alive and as wolves, and so this implies that the settlers stealing the Moonstone was an indirect act of genocide. Zed then realizes that he needs the werewolves' votes and to have a chance to win the election, and tries relating to them by telling them that the zombies are also seen as outsiders. When this doesn't work, he tries an approach of encouraging the zombies to leave part of their culture behind to assimilate into society in Seabrook. And so it begins the next musical number like the zombies do.
And I think you guys would have a much better time at Seabrook if you just followed in our footsteps.
This is my favorite song in the movie. I love it so much. It's so groovy and fun. Although the lyrical content is a little bit sad when you think about it. It's Zed telling the werewolves they should leave their culture behind to be accepted. But the werewolves do fight against that idea. And I also wonder if the song exists because of the popularity of Chillin' Like a Villain from Descendants 2. Although they have different narrative purposes, the vibes are similar. Zed's efforts don't work out and he ends up being behind the polls, so he realizes that he thinks it's because people are lumping zombies and werewolves together, and then he decides he needs to separate himself from the werewolves. And Addison, like the Mary Sue that she isn't racist, so she invites the werewolves to go to cheer practice with her, and they end up getting along, and it's kind of implied that Wyatt kind of likes Addison, maybe has a crush on her, which makes Zed jealous, and like of course it does. This is the second movie in a Disney Channel musical movie series after all. They end up having an argument because of this, and Zed tells Addison that he's been running for president just because he wants them to be able to go to prom together. Addison tells Zed that the fact that he has been rejecting his zombie trait to get votes isn't wanting to be accepted, and I don't think she's in the wrong here, but I have some thoughts about this scene. I'll talk about it later. Zed finishes the argument by telling Addison that she has no right to talk about his choices, as she's the girl who lived her whole life wearing a wig. And yeah, this wasn't a nice thing to say, but it prompts Addison to leave and have this whole dramatic song about not knowing who she is and where she belongs. And like, Addison, sweetie, calm down, you only have white hair. Okay, I'm clowning at her because the white wig is atrocious and it's funny to make fun of it, but I do understand in concept what Addison is feeling. This type of impression that there's something different about you and you cannot really explain it, but it makes you feel like an alien around other people. For me, it was lesbianism. At night, the werewolves go to visit Addison and invite her to go with them. And since Addison is in this vulnerable position of being desperate to belong somewhere, she joins the cult. She goes with the werewolves. They take her to the wolf lair in the forest, and Willa explains to Addison that their necklaces are getting weaker, and consequently them as werewolves are getting weaker too. Addison also tries speaking the werewolf language, which is howling, but she messes up a lot of phrases, so it almost looks like she doesn't really speak it. Okay guys, no language analysis for this part, but I do have a question. Are these werewolves the same werewolves that lived during the settlers' days and they are immortal? Or are they really teenagers? Because I suppose they have been living their whole lives without the moonstone then. They've lived their entire lives with necklaces that are drying out. How do they have necklaces for all the wolves? At some point, there's going to be more werewolves than the necklace count, right? If they're not immortal. I mean, I have no idea. So then the werewolves tell Addison that they think she's the great alpha who will lead them back to their moonstone, and they sing a song about it called Call to the Wild. I also don't really vibe with the song, but it has a purpose. It is supposed to be there to show that Addison finally feels like she belongs somewhere because she's seeing this unity that the werewolves have and she craves that. She also has an outfit transformation, and it's Addison in her emo era, yes. Zed, Bree, Bonzo, and Eliza show up, and they are there to rescue Addison because they think she's in danger because she sent a text to Bree with help, written help, and a beaker emoji because she needed help with a chemistry homework, but they thought she was in danger, but turns out she wasn't. The werewolves give Addison, before she leaves, a fully charged necklace, and they are like, if you wear this, you're going to become the great alpha, and she's like, I'm going to take a day to figure stuff out, and they're like, okay. Then the power plant of Seabrook finally begins getting demolished, and someone finally puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that the power source of the power plant is the moonstone. And so the werewolves decide to do something about this tomorrow. The next day is election day, and Zed reasonably so tells Addison that he doesn't think she's a werewolf. And then she says, but I love the moon. And he answers with, you like sunsets too. That doesn't mean you're a vampire. And is this foreshadowing for Zombies 4 Dawn of the Vampires? We have to wonder. Can't wait to see Addison with a Buffy-like vampire face. That would be the dream. Zed steals Addison's necklace and she thinks she lost it, which makes the werewolves upset at her because they think she's irresponsible. And Eliza gets mad at Zed because she thinks he's supporting measures that won't benefit the marginalized groups, the zombies and the werewolves. He's putting his own culture behind out of desperation to fit in. And honestly, I really like that the narrative is in Eliza's side this time. Zed and Bucky have a Hamilton-esque inspired rap battle. It's cringe. But it does end with Zed telling the crowd that he isn't a monster, and then immediately his Z-band legs and he turns into a full-on zombie. So that was very bad timing. And while this is going on, he's like telling Eliza, I can't let them see me as a monster. That was interesting. And so later Eliza tells him that he probably lost the election, but more than losing the election, he lost himself. The werewolves go stop the demolition of the power plant, and so it begins my second favorite song in this movie, Flesh and Bone. I don't know why I like the song so much, I just do. I think the whistle sounds fun. I don't know, I really like the song. And it is about the werewolves, sticking together and fighting for their rights, so that's interesting. One of the workers at the power plant actually says,
You're trespassing, werewolves!
And they answer,
How can we be trespassing on our own land?
And again, this is interesting. There's also the scene where the worker tells the cops to arrest the werewolves and calls them beasts. And I understand that they aren't really human, so it's going to make what I'm going to say next kind of funny. But I do appreciate that they are showing this dehumanization of the werewolves. This type of dehumanization that happens from the people in the places of power, applying them to the werewolves. Since we came to like the werewolves throughout the movie and empathize with their motivations and wants, it feels like a kick in the face seeing them being called beasts for wanting to get what is rightfully theirs. Anyway, white savior Edison comes to protest against what is happening there, and so do the zombies. And Zed has a moment of reflection when he sings, we came from the bottom, now we became the problem. I like that they showed that some of the zombies were in the wrong too for being against the werewolves. Is this some sort of commentary about how minority groups are pushed to fight against each other so that they cannot unite and go against the dominant group? This protest is able to stop the detonation of the power plant, and then Zed tells Edison that he stole her necklace and gives it back to her. And she gets really upset over that, and then she wears the necklace, and nothing happens. Edison is in the Great Alpha. Honestly, I think this is the best resolution they could have given to this. But then the power plant ends up getting demolished anyway, and now the werewolves are sick and weak, which is not fun. Zed goes to their lair to apologize for wishing they would leave their customs behind to fit in, and Willa answers him with, they think we are monsters, and Zed answers with, we are monsters, with this proud face. And so, yeah. The monsters then decide to protest against the anti-monster legislation by going to prawn anyway, like Eliza had suggested. And this is such a Disney Channel solution. I love it. I also love Bucky and the AC's outfits. They look really good in the sparkly suits. And the monsters look really good too. Willa looks so pretty. Zed and Edison apologize to each other, and Zed tells Edison that she's a leader who is able to bring people together, so this is her identity. And differently from Magnus saying Mallory was the glue that stuck the floor 19 people together in Magnus Chase 3, The Ship of the Dead, this was corroborated by the narrative, so I like that. And then they sing a reprise of Sunday, because of course they do. But there's still 10 minutes left in the movie and the werewolves are still dying. So basically what happens is, there's an earthquake and they realize that the moonstone is actually underground. It wasn't destroyed, it was buried. And so they go to find the moonstone, they find the moonstone, they use the help of everybody to get to the moonstone, and the werewolves are able to recharge themselves and they are alive and well. And this is achieved actually through Zed using his Z-band to become more zombie to help the werewolves, which I guess is supposed to show that he isn't denying his zombiness anymore. Then there's the last song, One for All, which is supposed to be about, respecting difference, as these usually are, and it has the beautiful line, we're so unique, we're not the same. Zoe befriends a werewolf girl, one of the ACs, the blonde girl. Is it the blonde girl? It is the blonde girl. She tries Froyo for the first time. And Zed and Edison have their first on-screen kiss, following the tradition of decoms. And before I finish this, I have to say, I still have to comment on Addison's styling. Her dress in this part is so hideous. It looks so cheap. It looks like a Star Doll dress. I don't get it. All the other characters, you can tell that it's cheap costuming, but they look good. They look fine. But Addison's dress is so ugly. Why did they do this to her? This was a hard movie to summarize. Yeah, guys, I think it's pretty clear from the whole text that the werewolves are supposed to be an allegory for Native Americans. They are actually like allegory for indigenous people in general that were colonized. I only said Native Americans because this is an American movie. They were there before the settlers, and people have prejudices against them that see them as violent, primitive, and dangerous. The settlers have also stolen their resources, aka the moonstone, and also their land. And again, this allegory is weird considering they are werewolves. They are monsters. And I think this makes sense on why they wouldn't show the werewolves becoming full-on monsters. First of all, they probably didn't have the budget for a CGI like that. But second of all, because it would be really weird if they did. Zombies 2 is my least favorite movie in the Zombies franchise. I just find the whole melodrama between Edison and Zed to be tiring and overdone. With that said, even though I think it's weird to use werewolves as a metaphor for indigenous peoples, I think the message of this movie is the least weird one out of the 3 Zombies movies. I think it's the one that translated the best. First of all, I appreciate how they showed that fear of the unknown does lead prejudiced people to decree oppressive laws. The anti-monster legislation being reinstated shows that Seabrook as a society still has some internalized racism issues. It can be seen as character regression, I guess, but to me it definitely feels like it's supposed to be showing the town's acceptance of the monsters as fragile and conditional, which I think shows that societal change is a lot more complex to achieve than it might seem, and that prejudice can resurface when there's a new perceived threat. I also liked how they showed the history books telling the story of the settlers and the werewolves who started the battle first wrong, because it is important to teach children that the people who win in history are the ones who get to write it. And the whole dialogue I mentioned earlier, the "you're trespassing werewolves, how can we be trespassing our own land?" Again, it feels pretty on the nose to me, but I think it's an effective way to teach children about colonization. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't nice, and it's still affecting native peoples who lost their land up until today. Second of all, I really like Zed's arc. Zed wants the zombies to get rights by adhering to societal expectations, which means excluding their zombie culture. The movie portrays him to be in the wrong here, contrasting his actions against the werewolves. I think that's nice. They really shouldn't have to be stripped away of their culture in order to assimilate. And I think the movie does show why Zed is doing that. He's still not 100% accepted. The zombies still aren't 100% accepted. This is something that okay, I'm going on a tangent, but do you know Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior? This was a movie I loved as a kid, and I rewatched it. Okay, it wasn't recently, it was a couple of years ago, but it made me realize one thing. That movie is about how Wendy's family didn't keep on cultivating their Chinese heritage because they were forced to assimilate, but they never tell why they were forced to assimilate when they moved to the US. And the reason is, well, because they were oppressed, they were a minority group. And zombies, on the other hand, at least is showing why Zed would do something like this. He's seen in the wrong, but we understand why he's doing what he's doing, which is important. Or else this would be a villainization of a person who just wants to follow the rules of the oppressive life that they live. Like, you know, it's not fair to them. Zed's fear of losing Edison if he doesn't win the election and takes her to prom just really shows his insecurities and this belief he has that acceptance needs to be earned instead of given, which is something that we can understand where he got from, because in the beginning, in the first movie, he was only getting rights by doing well on football, so like you can understand why he thinks that way. His actions, while understandable, ultimately reinforce the idea that you have to change who you are to be loved and accepted, which isn't the case. Zed is also trying to get the werewolves on his side during the election, but he doesn't even consider their wants. His attempts to gain the werewolf support without actual care for their needs serves as, I think, commentary on how marginalized groups are often used as political pawns, which I think is interesting. This is interesting to be in a children's movie. And okay, I need to talk about Zed and Edison's big fight about Zed hiding who he is, because as I mentioned earlier, I have thoughts. Edison isn't in the wrong for telling Zed that he's changing who he is in order to fit in and win the election, and I agree with that, but it feels disingenuous coming from Edison, and again, weird considering she isn't an oppressed minority in this group like Zed is. Okay, she has to hide her hair, not anymore, but you know, people don't like her hair, but this is not the same thing as being systemically oppressed. You don't understand what Zed is going through, Edison. It feels like a punch in the face when she's trying to impose what she thinks Zed should live like. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Zed trying to deny his zombiness is a good thing. I just made that very clear. But Edison isn't in the place to understand why Zed would do something like that in the first place. The movie at the end does recognize that Zed's approach is flawed. Eliza stands up to him, and the narrative ultimately sides with her. The zombies and the werewolves should not have to change who they are in order to assimilate. I don't really like how this movie ends with the werewolves. Okay, they get their moonstone, fine, but there's no talks about, you know, historical reparation or anything. No laws giving them land or something. I suppose maybe these measures were taken in between the second and the third movie and it's just not mentioned. I don't know. I understand that they probably wanted to end the movie at prawn. I just think that when you introduce systemical issues in your movie and the whole point is that there are these systemical issues, you sort of have to, you know, fix them by the end of the movie, or at least suggest a fix for them, which isn't something that happens in this movie, but okay. Lastly, I don't think I have any interesting thoughts about Addison this time. I'm not going to go too hard on her for feeling dislocated for her weird hair, because as I mentioned, I do understand the situation she's portraying of feeling alienated from other people. I do like the resolution that she is not the great alpha, that she's just a normal girl. I just think this was a lost chance to explore better the deeper implications of her search for belonging, especially in a town that is still in a clear context of exclusion. And yeah, this is Zombies 2. It has the better message, but it's my least favorite one. Let's talk about Zombies 3. Zombies 3 begins with another cute little comic book-like animation. I feel like I said the exact same sentence to begin my Zombies 2 summary. I'm sorry. Although this time it's a lot shorter and it doesn't introduce a new monster. It tells us that Zed wants to become the first zombie to attend college. He wants to go to the same university as Edison is going. And Edison still wants to find where she belongs. She's really giving Hercules from the 1997 movie without the being adopted part. Now it's time for a big football game, and this is going to play a pretty big part on whether Zed gets into college or not, because there's going to be people from the school he wants to get into there watching him play, I guess. I don't understand how getting into college in the US works. In Brazil, you have to take a test. It's called, the test is called ENEM, which means Exame Nacional do Ensino Médio, National High School Exam. It sucks. There's like 180 questions. It's separated into 2 days. So it's in a Sunday and then the next week in the other Sunday. And one of the Sundays, you have all the Portuguese questions, literature questions, arts questions, all the human sciences questions, so history, geography, sociology, philosophy, this type of thing. And you have to write an essay of a topic that they come up with in the moment, like you get to know what is the essay in that moment. And then the next week is the not biological, nature, sciences, and the math test. Anyway, what was I talking about? I have no idea. The ending. During this movie, Eliza is in an internship for the Z-Band company that produces the Z-Bands. And so she's only seen in like screens, so like tablets, films, this type of thing. And this is actually because the actress who plays Eliza was pregnant during the filming of this movie. So that's fun. Good for her. The werewolves are still living in the Seabrook town, and they are feeling something weird going on with their moonstone necklaces. What is going on there? Wyatt also tells Willa that he thinks they should cheer for the zombies and for Zed, because if Zed gets into college, this is a big thing for all of the monsters, because he's going to be the first monster to go to college. It's going to be opening the doors for all of them. Also now, Winter is on the football team. It's giving Jane in the season 8 of Degrassi. Actually, it's not, because no one is being sexist to her. At some point, Edison's mom makes a keep calm man joke, and okay.
Keep calm and zombie on, right?
I don't know if this is supposed to come off as outdated because she is the mom character, she is an adult, or if the writers genuinely thought that this was something that would be current to the kids watching. But like, this movie came out in 2022. The keep calm and meme was popular in 2012. There are some kids watching this movie. Most kids watching this movie, I would argue, were not born when this was a thing. While Zed is trying to talk to the college interviewers after the game, something happens, and it is an alien ship arrives. Yes, this movie has aliens. And you can tell Zombies 3 has a Disney Plus budget, a higher budget, just from this scene alone. And so begins the first song in the movie, Alien Invasion, which is just showing how each one of the characters is feeling towards what is going on. Most of them are suspicious and afraid of the aliens. This is my least favorite opening song from the Zombies movies, but it's fine. Actually, let's talk about this wording for a while, because it isn't really an alien invasion. I don't know if this was done on purpose, showing the characters calling it an invasion, which the Cambridge Dictionary defines as a negative arrival of a group of people to a place, when it's just the aliens going in peace to Seabrook. They themselves are saying they come in peace. So the aliens are just like the werewolves and the zombies. It's a big group, but there's only 3 of them that are relevant. There's Ellen, who is played by the guy who played EJ on High School Musical, the series. There's Allie, who in the beginning doesn't really have a personality, but then her personality becomes being angry, which I think is funny. And then there's Aspen, who is Disney Channel's first live-action non-binary character. And the actor who plays them was in the movie Prom Dates, which I watched last week with my sister, and I didn't really like it. And I was so sad that I didn't really like it, because it's exactly my type of movie. Like, Booksmart is one of my favorite movies, if it tells anything about what type of movie I enjoy. But yeah, I didn't really vibe with it. I'm sorry. The aliens are able to read each other's minds, and they were sent there by their, I don't know exactly what is her title, I think it's their leader, I guess, who wants them to find their most precious thing, which is in Seabrook. This most precious thing is going to be able to lead them to their new home, Utopia, because their home planet has recently been destroyed. The population of Seabrook isn't very welcoming to the aliens, so they conclude that they cannot really tell anyone about their actual goals on going to the town. And so they lie they actually are in Seabrook for their cheer competition, because there's a new cheer competition happening this time. As always, Edison's mother, Mayor Missy, wants to oppress them because she always does. This woman never learns. But we have our white savior Edison to tell her mom to not do that because the aliens only came in peace to go to the cheer competition and should be entitled to do that. And then Bucky has this very fun line where he says the aliens only came to steal their stuff and they should go away. So that's interesting. I have thoughts about that. Put a pin in this moment. Anyway, then the aliens are getting questioned, and this scene is supposed to show us two things. First of all, the aliens suppress their emotions. They have something that is blocking them from showing emotion and feeling emotion. And second thing, Zed now thinks he has to be exceptional to get into college. Mayor Missy only let the aliens stay in Seabrook up until the cheer competition. After that, they have to leave. And Aspen decides to block the suppressors of the emotions so that the aliens can start feeling emotions for the first time. The problem is the aliens don't really know what cheer is and what competition is for that matter too. Alan mentions that the aliens live in total harmony with each other and they don't compete. Also, they call their ship Mothership, and like the mothership speaks and like talks to them like it is an actual mother. And it's really funny because the voice of the mothership is RuPaul. It's just RuPaul. Like, I remember I was watching that movie for the first time and I was listening to the mothership and I was like, this mothership is sounding familiar, and it's RuPaul. Later that day, Edison is telling Zed that she thinks it's cool that the aliens are able to live together in total harmony and peace, and they sing a song together about how they're going to be together forever, even though with the struggles, they will try to keep on being together and, you know, this type of stuff. It's a song called They No Doubt About It. I like it. It's cute. And it's kind of self-aware, so there's that. Although, you know, most high school relationships, they are not going to last. Continuing with the tradition of minority groups being against each other in this movie, the werewolves are suspicious of the actual motives the aliens have for going to Seabrook. But then Willa tells something interesting to Addison. That is, the last time someone came to Seabrook that weren't the werewolves, it was the settlers who, you know, colonized them. So it's interesting that at least they are giving more nuance to the situation. They are showing that the werewolves are just scared of being colonized again, which, okay, fair point, I guess. Although Bucky's still dying on the hill that the aliens are only there to steal the stuff that belongs to the humans. Zed realizes he's falling down on the ranking of the average grades from his class because Ellen discovered what competition is and he wants to compete against Zed to have the best grades. This whole situation leads Zed to tell the aliens that they should go back to their home planet. Yikes. And it's even worse because then we discovered that, well, the aliens' planet was destroyed, so they literally cannot go back there. And the aliens then ask Zed to explain to them what is the moonstone because it's being reflected on a scanner they have and they think this is the most precious thing. And so Zed explains it to them and they are like, this is the most precious thing. We have to get it. This is werewolves' property. Aspen later goes to Addison and Bree to ask help because they want to understand what is going on with them. They don't understand the feelings they are having. And turns out that Aspen has a crush on Zed. And then Addison has to explain to them, look, great that you have feelings now and that you have a crush, but Zed is my boyfriend. I will say I like that they didn't make this a big deal or a rivalry. I wouldn't think they would do because Addison is not this type of character. But yeah, I like that it wasn't a huge deal. Also, in the Disney Channel version of this movie, there's a musical number here about what is love? What is love? But I have never seen the Disney Channel version of this movie. Later, the aliens are practicing for the cheer competition, and since they can read each other's mind, it's really easy to practice. And then Seabrook High is going to, you know, rehearse. And so while this is going on, the aliens are like, okay, now everyone is distracted. Let's go get the moonstone. And so they go get the moonstone and they try scanning it, but turns out that that wasn't the most precious thing. The coordinates to their new home are not there. Also, before that, Ellie implies she wants to kill everybody.
Now that they're distracted, we can vaporize them.
So maybe the whole suppressing emotions thing was working for her. Then, you know, they run away because they hear the werewolves coming, and so the werewolves realize that someone was near their moonstone, and they're like, oh no, someone has been near our moonstone. Probably it was the aliens, those damn aliens. And they sing a song about it called Come On Out, and I know that this is the most popular song from this movie, I'm pretty sure, and I think it is because it kind of sounds like a Stray Kids song. Don't Lie to Me kind of does okay. We just need a rep section, actually a lot of rep sections. While trying to hide the aliens, ask the mothership to transport them there, and so the mothership transports them there, and Edison ends up going there too, and she's like confused, why am I here? And so she begins like running, and she bumps into Zed, and she gets scared and punches him in the face again, because we need a punching scene again. Guys, I just want to make it clear that every time Edison punches Zed in the face, she thinks it's something dangerous. She never knows it's actually Zed. She's not actually punching her boyfriend in the face all the time. Then Edison is like, oh, that makes sense. Aspen probably transported you here because they want to spend more alone time with you. Zed is not understanding what is going on, and Edison is like, yeah, they like you. And then Zed has a funny fourth wall breaking scene that I wish there were more of these in this movies.
Alone time? Why? Oh, okay, well, I do have universal appeal.
It's in the scene that the aliens then explain that their home country was actually destroyed because it was being environmentally damaged continuously, and since they didn't want to break the harmony because they're all about keeping the peace, no one spoke out, and so their planet got destroyed. Also, Aspen breaks up with Zed in a scene that feels pretty reminiscent of Maya in the first episode of Girl Meets World.
Couples can grow apart.
But we are not a couple.
No, we are not. I am breaking up with you. I'm sorry.
At least now the aliens finally tell Zed and Edison the real reason they are in Seabrook. And they also watch a message that their leader left that is telling them that she actually back in the day lived in Seabrook for a while because I don't remember the context, but she was there for a while and she got married to a man named Eli. And by being at Seabrook, her hair turned white and she had a baby girl named Amishanta, but they call her Missy, and Missy is Edison's mom. Yeah, Edison has white hair because she's a quarter alien. Ooh, did we like the reveal? Did you guys like my foreshadowing that I did? I said Edison felt like an alien a couple of minutes ago. It wasn't a couple of minutes ago. It was probably like half an hour ago. But I did do foreshadowing. But you know, Edison, since she's like only a quarter alien, she cannot really read the other aliens' minds and like scan stuff like they do, and she doesn't have the stardust. So they are like, oh, you aren't really one of us, and she gets upset by that, but she's still like, okay, I'm still going to help them get to their home. The aliens also now think that the most precious thing is the trophy from the cheer competition, so they really want to get it. The next day, it's Dad's college interview, and he feels like he has to prove that he's exceptional to get in. Everybody's counting on him because by being the first zombie to get into college, this would open the doors for a lot of other monsters to go get an education. And this leads to the song Exceptional Zed, which is both my favorite song from this movie and the whole franchise. I love this song so much. It is so good. It is so fun, catchy, musical. Like, I love it. I love singing it, doing all the voices from the characters. I love it. And it's everyone singing about the nice thing Zed has done, and I think it's cute. I like that. Zed ends up messing up the interview because Edison keeps on making him zombie out by touching him because she's now becoming more alien. So the aliens have this thing where they touch the werewolves and the zombies and the other monsters that makes them repel. It's like an electric thing. I didn't talk about this earlier because it wasn't relevant. But anyway, this leads Addison to conclude that she really is an alien, which is she's happy about because now she knows who she is. But Dad hasn't gotten into college. So the interviewer is going away because she's like, this guy is not cut out for our college. But then he stops her midway and he sings a reprise of Exceptional Zed, this time highlighting how exceptional all the zombies are. And I'm sorry, I know it's very cheesy, but I love this. Zed is trying to show that he's an exception, that there are monsters who are exceptional in their own fields. He sings, I'm going to read the lyrics now. I know that I may be different. Who that's exceptional isn't. We have a spark that can change things. It's not a curse, it's amazing. And then we don't need to pretend because we won't ever fit in. And we're not just awesome in spite of that. We take pride in that instead. We're all exceptional. Just think shows how much his character grew throughout these movies. Zed has finally learned to stop trying to hide his zombiness in order to fit in, and I like that. I appreciate that, and I think it's a sweet moment. It's finally time for the cheer competition, and besides the judges from the first movie, there's actually a new judge who is a zombie, which I love. I love the inclusion. However, I have some questions about her credentials as a judge. Cheer was not allowed for zombies up until like 3-4 years ago in this movie's timeline. So like, how long has she been practicing cheer that she can be a judge of a cheer competition, and a big cheer competition at that? But yeah, anyway, basically Zed gets into college. He gets a call telling him we're accepted, and he's all happy, woo. But then he sees Z-Band patrols arriving, and he's like, they are here to get the aliens because it's a long story, but basically the werewolves have told Eliza that they think the aliens have tried stealing their moonstones, so Eliza was the one who got the patrols because they thought the aliens were trying to steal them, so there's that. This makes the aliens get disqualified because they are not there for the competition, so Addison is like, oh my god, I have to win because I have to get the trophy so that they can go back home. And so she sings another song, another power ballad about finding out who she is, but at least now she knows who she is. So, and the song is called I'm Finally Me, and it's not as good as Austin and Allie's I'm Finally Me, but it's okay, that's fine. Seabrook wins, Addison gets the trophy, and this all feels pretty rushed, or maybe it is because I was writing the script as I was rewatching the movie in ×4 speed, and then the werewolves show up and they are like, the aliens are not to be trusted, and then Aspen answers like, so much passion. This is Willa saying, by the way. It's Willa's talking. And then Zed tells Aspen, no, you don't get it. She wants to rip your heart out. And Aspen answers, she can have it. And, here's the thing. I haven't really been speaking about the side romances in this movie, namely Eliza and Wyatt and Buzzo and Bree, because they are not relevant to the main plot, and this video is long enough. But I'm only mentioning this because same, Aspen, same. The aliens try to run into the mothership to run away with the trophy that Addison has given them, and everyone is fighting against that because they all think the aliens are stealing the trophy, so they're all confused, they think the aliens are thieves. And so Addison stops everyone, and with a song that sounds like it came out straight from the Sims 2 soundtrack in a moment when a Sim gets abducted, Addison has an outfit transformation where she turns full alien, and I love Addison's alien clothes. I think her wig, the blue wig, looks a lot better because she looks really washed out with a white wig. So the blue one looks really pretty. She looks really pretty. I like the makeup. I like the makeup in general in this movie. It's a lot better than the last one, and the clothes are cool. And yeah, I just want to talk about that. I like her transformation. I would have loved this as a kid if I had like a doll of all the different versions of Addison. I think they sell those. I have no idea, but Then Addison's mom reveals that she always knew she was part alien. She just didn't tell Addison because her mom told her not to, because she wanted to protect Addison because Addison was her most precious thing. So that's easy. Now we know who has the coordinates. It's Addison. And Addison ends up having to go and leave with the aliens because they need her at all times to find their home planet. So this is literally like Addison found out she's like a quarter Austrian and decided to go to Austria without a phone, because she cannot really communicate with people from space, So that's really funny. But yeah, she's going with the aliens because that's her people, I guess. Wyatt convinces Willa to stop being prejudiced against the aliens because Addison is a quarter alien and she's still a part of their pack. And so, I'm glad that the werewolves aren't prejudiced anymore, but I think this is a funny logic to have there. And then they decide to lend the moonstone to the aliens to use as power for their ship to go to their home. And also everyone gets together to help fix the mothership because the mothership has been damaged. And everyone, all the kids who stayed at Seabrook, graduate high school with pink robes. And this is the end. Pretty bittersweet ending, right? Addison and Zed were so certain that they would go to university together, but this is how it ends. No, I'm kidding. It obviously isn't. This is the last 5 minutes, so keep in mind this is all pretty rushed. But basically, the aliens realize that the mothership isn't really showing the map anymore. It really isn't showing where they should be going. And they begin questioning why Addison was the map in the first place. And Addison thinks, maybe my grandma thought that you would have something to learn in Seabrook. Then they rewatch scenes of the previous movies and realize that sometimes conflict is good. And all harmony isn't nice because sometimes conflict leads to progress. And this all leads the aliens to realize that Addison's grandmother wanted them to stay in Seabrook because it's a flawed place where they can learn to disagree, I guess. The aliens go back to Seabrook just in time for a graduation party where they sing a song called Nothing But Love. And I'm not going to lie, this song made me cry when I watched this movie for the first time in 2022. And it has the amazing lines, I can just be me, and you can be you too. And if we ever disagree, we'll just do like zombies do. Do you realize that I'm not reading the lyrics? It's because I know it by heart. I love the song. It's so cheesy. I love it. We used to on the night and sharing it, that's new. But the stars shine so much brighter. Now I'm sharing them with you. Anyway, I'm sorry. Also, they sang a reprise of Someday a couple of minutes before when Addison was going away. I forgot to say that, but they did. And this is what I thought was the ending of the Zombies franchise before they, decided to have a fourth one about vampires. And I hope there's some good Buffy references in that movie. Okay, from what I just said, it might not sound like it, but Zombies 3 is actually my favorite Zombies movie. It's a whole thing of it coming out in my last year of high school, and it was also there last year of high school, and it felt like an end of an era for my life. I don't even understand what they will do in the fourth movie because all the character arcs have ended. They are done. I don't know, I'm excited. I still will watch it and probably make a video about it if I think the politics are weird. With all that said, I definitely still have thoughts about the messages of this movie. First of all, it's pretty clear that the allegory this time was supposed to be that the aliens are supposed to be immigrants. They have a different culture from Seabrook. They have different customs. Customs is different from costumes. And they have arrived in town. The main thing that the characters feel when it comes to the zombies is a feeling of suspicion. They think the aliens are in Seabrook because they want to take something from the residents. The werewolves obviously have a more nuanced reason to think that. They have a history with things being taken from them from people from the outside, so I do understand them a little better. I think it's a little bit more nuanced. But the other characters think that because of xenophobia. So it makes me really confused why they would make the aliens actually be looking to steal something from Seabrook. The aliens really only came over to the Earth because they want to find the most precious thing that they think is the Moonstone. What I'm trying to say is that the narrative is showing that the character's suspicion of the aliens was reasonable because they actually had ulterior motives to be there. They got a pervasive stereotype of immigrants, that they come to the new countries wanting to steal something, jobs, houses, you know what I'm talking about, from the population. And instead of going against it and showing that the Seabrook residents were wrong by interacting with the aliens based on prejudice, they agreed with it. I do like the aliens and their quirks. I tend to really like this type of character that has trouble interacting with society. That's why Anya is my favorite Buffy character.
I definitely did not subscribe to Anya's hate of bunnies though.
I find it endearing to see Alan being competitive, Ellie being angry, and Aspen being in love and learning what is love. However, I do have questions about their characterization again. In Zombies 3, the aliens' emphasis on harmony and suppressing emotion is portrayed as flaws that they need to overcome, while competition and emotional expression are seen as what brings growth and change. This, to me, just feels like a pretty common neoliberal narrative that individualism and competition are necessary to bring growth, and I don't think this is necessarily true. This is a stance that the movie takes very firmly, though. There's no room for nuance here. The only thing making competition a trigger for progress and growth is capitalism, and they're only doing it because they want to make more money. It's also really weird in this whole thing because the whole reason why the aliens planet was destroyed was because of environmental issues spoke up against, and it's really weird that they are giving this very neoliberal pro-individualism message while also being like, but look, environmental issues destroyed the aliens planet. Like, what do you think is destroying our planet here? It's neoliberalism. The aliens suppressing their emotion isn't fine, okay, I agree with that. But then being in tune with each other and considering what's best for the group, agreeing that everyone should be equally tended to, is fine, it's good. It's way more equal than whatever has been going on in Seabrook. And it's pretty hypocritical to say at the end that Seabrook is the best place ever because at least there's room for growth. Like, I understand the point, but ask any zombie that had to spend their whole life working at a job they hated with no access to education, having to respect a curfew and wear uniforms that they didn't like, and being actively discriminated against every day. I don't think they would agree with that. I think Zombies 3 could have taken a much more nuanced approach to the idea of harmony. Instead of depicting the aliens' focus on harmony as a weakness, they could have shown how their values of unity and cooperation could be a solution for a lot of Seabrook's problems, because they could. I understand that they justify this by saying that the aliens' planet was destroyed because no one wanted to disrupt harmony, to speak out against what was happening, and I do understand that that is bad. With that being said, I think getting a planet destroyed caused the most disharmony, you know? What I'm trying to say is that I don't think the aliens' actions make sense. And it's weird considering how much the past movies have been about, agreeing with pacifism and being so adept of the pacifistic way to solve systemical issues. While this one is saying that it's bad to want to keep some harmony, again, yes, I do understand the point, and yes, someone needs to make some noise at some point for things to change. But harmony isn't in altogether a bad thing. This is kind of all too black and white for these movies that sometimes are trying to be more nuanced. Lastly, I'm glad we have a live-action non-binary character on the Disney Channel after Rain from The Owl House being the first animated one. I think that's cool, and I like that the actor who plays him is also non-binary. However, I do find it weird that they chose to have an alien be the non-binary character, like a non-human being. That's weird again. I think that my conclusion is that zombies as a series tends to oversimplify social dynamics that are in reality pretty complex. In the first movie, it oversimplifies by suggesting that non-confrontational methods alone can solve systemic issues. In the third movie, it oversimplifies by implying that harmony and cooperation are inherently bad things. I believe that while conflict and resistance are sometimes needed for change, harmony and cooperation also have their place in creating a better society. But I guess zombies doesn't agree with me. What can I do? And yeah, guys, this is this video. I didn't even know I could be so passionate about the zombies movies, but here I am. By the time I post this video, I think it's going to be my channel's first anniversary. So I just want to thank you guys for this year. I have made a lot of videos that I've enjoyed making. I love doing this. I hope I'll make more videos in the future. I already have a lot of plans for my future videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Twitter has recently been shut down in Brazil, not because of censorship. We are not a dictatorship or anything. It is because Elon Musk cannot respect the laws of this country, and I think it's good that the government is not abiding to that. However, the only social media accounts are my Twitter, my YouTube channel, and I have an Instagram account because I work with social media marketing, so I have to have one. But basically, since I don't have TikTok now, I don't have Twitter anymore, and like I'm on Tumblr, but I don't really know how to use it. I'm on Pinterest, but how am I going to find stuff there? You know what I mean? I have Last FM, but I'm not going to find news there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I have no idea how I'm going to be aware of what is going on in the world. Like, if there's any actor who I mentioned here who has been canceled, I'm sorry, I literally have no idea. And yeah, anyway, this is this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm really happy that you guys seem to really like my Wonder Girls video. I also really liked it. I thought it was one of my better ones. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye-bye. Kisses, kisses. Should I sing a song like I usually do? I don't want to, because this is a video about a musical movie and I sing pretty badly. And I criticized Edison's voice. I didn't mean this in a mean way, okay? Really, I just don't think her voice fits that. She has a song, Magdonally, the girl who plays Edison. She has a song called Digital Love. And this is like a song against web dating, which I find pretty funny. But I loved that song in 2019. I used to listen to it so much. Like, I'm not kidding. It was No More Digital Love. I need to feel your heart. Anyway, bye guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Why am I holding my TV control like this? Anyway, bye guys. Bye, 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 bye. Anyway, since Zombo, I called him Zombo. His name is not Zombo. Drink your water, guys. Ow, my teeth. While the cheer team is going back to Storybrooke, I almost said Storybrooke again. There was a spider in my hand. There was a spider in my hand, which is in Storybrooke. I almost said Storybrooke again. What is love?